And look, we're in a popping Miami. That obviously speaks volumes about the demand to sort of get back to normal. We can't ignore, though, the events unfolding elsewhere in the world. There is a war, there is a human tragedy that is very real and very urgent. We're seeing a spectrum of responses from across Wall Street. We've seen Jefferies come out and say they're going to donate trading revenue. Bill Ackman came out this morning and said the US should intervene militarily. From where you stand, what is the best solution to bring this to a close quickly?
First of all, thanks for being here. Thrilled to be back, and most of the people here are really happy to be back, and it's amazing how much you learn in person, stuff like that. And look, I'm going to defer American foreign policy to the American government. They're very smart. They've got a lot of experts in national security and economic policy, and hopefully they're doing the right things to bring it to a conclusion quickly. And also, my heart goes out for Ukrainians. I mean, this is a humanitarian crisis for them. We're announcing later today some of the stuff we're going to try to do help there, and hopefully more to come.
And just talk to me quickly about SWIFT and what that means for the global banking industry, if indeed these sanctions that have been proposed are followed through.
There's a little misinformation today. The government's going to decide how to use sanctions, how to use SWIFT. I don't want to bore your users. A sanction says I cannot do business with you. A SWIFT thing says I can't use a communication to do business with you. I can still do business with you. And there are a lot of workarounds on SWIFT, so there are different tools to be used for different reasons. And the banks are talking to the government so everyone understands the issues, not because they're for or against any particular thing.
On the question
but these war doesn't always follow the path you want. Financial sanctions don't always follow the path you want, so people should be very thoughtful how they go about these things.
But the question of workarounds to SWIFT is a very important one, because that seems to be a concern, that if an alternative system is established and begins to get traction, that can present real risks to the sort of financial stability of the West.
Well, but remember, they can just stop us from doing it by telling us. A sanction is very targeted, very specific, very clean, and depending on how you apply it, you can apply that in multiple ways that you can't get around. There's no workaround in that kind of sanction, nor should there be. I'm an American patriot, and we're going to do what the American government tells us to do, and so I think people worried, I think they're more worried about SWIFT about the unintended consequences. What countries you hurt, what people are going to do workarounds, how you fix that in the case you shouldn't. Remember, the government itself wants to have an open conduit, it looks like, for energy payments. So there are a whole bunch of issues they got to work through.
Before any of this started, there was obviously a lot of questions around the Fed and what they were going to be doing this year to try and get inflation under control. You've been public in some comments about where you think they've got it right, where you think they've got it wrong. Taking in everything that's going on at the moment, do you think what they've telegraphed is going to be enough to get the economy under control?
Yeah, it's really good to step back 2 years ago, because we were here 2 years ago, and then weeks after that, we had, months after that, we had 15% unemployment, no vaccine. So I really applaud what the government did to get things back. And it's very easy to second guess and do all that. I hate doing it. I'm about to do it. They probably too much fiscal stimulus and quantitative easing, but you still have a very strong economy. And I think the Fed's going to try to meet that strong economy with strength by raising rates and reversing QE, not to eliminate, to slow it down, so you reduce inflation and all of that. And I wish them the best.
How many rate raises do you think we should see this year?
I mean, look, people are relying on 7 or 9. It could be 7 or 9. It could be more. It could be less. And obviously, when people say the Fed's going to be data dependent, well, of course. Can you imagine the Fed saying we're not going to be data dependent at all? So they should be data dependent. The stronger this is, the more they can raise it, and they'll keep all the issues in mind, and hopefully can offset it. And I don't think all of inflation is temporary, but I do think part of it, because the supply chains will get better over time. So they just got to navigate through that, and I don't think they should promise to us what they're going to do, because they don't know what they're going to do.
They need to retain that flexibility.
They need to retain flexibility, yes.
Let's talk about JPMorgan for a second. Hiring and the war for talent is something you and I have discussed before, and the challenges indeed that Wall Street has in retaining the best and brightest. But I want to look sort of more broadly at the disparity between the people at the tops of banks and the sort of thousands of workers, in large financial institutions like JPMorgan. And I wonder, from where you stand, do you see pressure to increase the minimum wage for those people who are working at the sort of, as I say, the lower ranks of financial institutions?
So, the thing, people stay at a company because they like their boss, they're paid fairly, they're given opportunity, and you absolutely want to do that. And then some people leave for good reason. They want to retire, they want to try something different. Maybe they get an opportunity from you they're not going to get from me. So people be a little cautious about that, but we want to be top pay, top performance. We've always taken very good care of our lower paid. So our lowest paid fundamentally start $20 an hour, which is $44,000 a year, plus full benefit program worth maybe $13,000 a year, and that's the first rung on the ladder. You could be 18 years old. I didn't make that when I was 18 years old, you know, and so opportunity, job training to get to where you're going, and we all need to become competitive. And so that's, you know, that's a good thing. And I think that, you know, CEOs complain about wages going up. Well, I think it's a good thing for the people who have their wages going up. So I'm not going to complain about that. I understand that that's the capitalist system, and sometimes it favors one thing over the other. So
will you be raising the minimum wage for JPMorgan workers?
Raise it from like 14 to 16.
But I mean more.
Possibly, you know, possibly. But we've always been very competitive. I mean, so you've never heard me say anything than best pay for best performance, but you got to have the best performance too.
Right.
You know, some companies have the best pay for not great performance, and like I said, a lot of it's also the opportunity to give people. It's not just the money. It's how they feel treated when they walk in that morning. Are they going to give an opportunity? Does the boss treat them respectfully? Does the company want to see them succeed?
Private capital is another area that is much discussed at the moment. I read on a rival website, I should say this morning, that you guys at JPMorgan are doing something in the space. It was described to me as being sort of a dating agency for family wealth on the one side and, you know, new ventures on the other side. Tell me why you're getting into that at the moment.
Well, no, so we've always done private capital. So a lot of people here, and remember, one of the amazing things you come here is the brain power of American capitalism, you know, looking for opportunity, not just to make money, to finance companies, to do things differently. We've always been in private capital. We're one of the largest middle market lenders, real estate lenders, corporate lenders, but it's done a different way. It's done what they call unitranche lending. It can be done much quicker. You know, different covenants, revolvers, which come in a different way. So we need to be competitive. We're not going to do everything that people here do, but we're going to do some of that. And then I think we're talking about also in this company, we have a new thing coming called, I think, called Capital Connect. We know more about middle market companies and private companies than anybody, so we're going to get more access to them to capital and more access to investors to invest in those companies, more through technology and stuff like that. So tons of stuff to come, and of course we're going to be competitive. In some cases, we compete with the people here, and some we're not. Yeah.
Doesn't that conflict with relationships you would have with venture capitalists who might say, well, hold on, you're putting other people into these deals when they're actually the things that we're set up to go after?
Venture capitalists? Mm-hmm. No. Look, I'm so used my whole life to competing and then with people and then collaborating with the same people, and we bank a lot of venture capital companies. We're not going to do all the same kind of venture capital, but we've always done some. You know, we own a piece of 100 different fintech companies. You know, when sometimes we do business with a company, like to buy a piece of that company and then put someone on the board to help, you know, guide their policies and procedures, something like that. So yeah, so sometimes it's competition, but that's America. You know, competition in general is a good thing, and we've got competition coming everywhere. I don't ask them not to compete with me. I understand if they want to compete with JPMorgan, that's up to them.
I'm just hearing in my,
we bank them.
I'm hearing in my ear, Jamie, that the S&P is at like session lows. Obviously, this is a lot of fear going on from what's happening elsewhere in the world today. I wonder what your advice is to big corporate customers about how they deal with this, what seems to be a new normal in terms of volatility, whether it's induced by the Fed, whether it's induced by what's going on in Ukraine or elsewhere.
Well, basically, they got to get used to it. You know, we have, you know, first of all, market volatility is not the same thing as the economy. And you know, the economy looks like it can be pretty strong for a while. Obviously, there are things that are going to upset that apple cart. You know, market volatility, unless it affects the economy, most of people don't care. They don't pay that much attention to it. So I think you will inevitably have a lot of market volatility, both from, you know, the lack of bipartisanship, you know, the reversal of QE to QT. That's a very complex thing. Rising rates. You know, the market's already kind of high. You know, which makes it so. I think that's kind of a normal state of affairs. I tell most people, I worry about serving my customer. I want to be for these customers day in and day out. I'll deal with the market volatility like the weather. That's fine.
But customers do worry about volatility because it changes their ability to make clear decisions over a time horizon.
I think very few do, actually. And I mean, I think, you know, confidence is not driven because of market volatility. It's rule of law. Is the country going to grow and stuff like that? So, you know, some people react to market volatility. If it starts to affect the economy, like capital investment, consumer, you know, real consumer confidence, then the Fed will probably slow down what it's doing. And you know, they don't want to do that. But my view is build the business for the long run. You know, you're going to have some tough times. that's what we all live with. So.
M&A has been a huge part of the current cycle, and I think last year was a record for pretty much every shop on Wall Street, and certainly global volumes were at their all-time high. I wonder, looking forward, where you see that market going and the kind of deals we might see done in 22.
Yeah. Whenever
and whether you'll participate.
Yeah, of course we are. Whenever people talk about our pipeline is strong, I was thinking, yeah, but pipeline...
M&A bankers always say that.
Yeah, pipelines tend to go like this, like a little like an accordion. So that pipeline's come in a little bit, but it still could be good. Remember, a lot of M&A is strategic. Prices going down sometimes increases M&A. There's plenty of capital around, so it probably won't be like last year, but it could probably be fine. The IPO market, on the other hand, has been pretty difficult. So, but that may open up too, and people change their mind, and so we'll see.
Well, I think when we last sat down, it was all SPACs, and SPACs now seem a thing of the past.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to ask before I let you go about the metaverse. Obviously, that has been something that has, again, got a lot of press. There's a nice picture of you in the metaverse, in the sort of lobby area, in a tiger. I wonder, I mean, look, when I look at it, when I look at the optics, it can seem a bit gimmicky, but do you see this as a long-term sort of viable business?
Yeah, I do actually, because it's one of the benefits of traveling. I went out there and met with some of the metaverse companies, Silicon Valley. And
in real life, not in the metaverse.
In real life,
right.
In real life. But here's like a very basic thing. So you're still going to eat food and go to sleep and have a girlfriend or boyfriend, and you're still going to, that's real life, okay? It's not going to replace all of that. But as it was described to me, you're in this metaverse. It could be screens in front of you or this type of thing, and you're playing a game. But you also then want to go shopping, and you want to buy something in both, so the wallet can go from one to the other, and then you want to go say hi to a friend, and you can do all that while sitting there for 15 minutes. So, will those things be real? Sure. Will people do that? Yes. Well, people are going to do it like for the rest of their lives, and will replace all the other things, like walking on the beach? Absolutely not.
But do people want to go to banks in the metaverse? I mean, I get why you might want to go play a game, but...
No, they might go for training. They might go to get a mortgage. They might go to move money. They might go to talk to their friend and say, hey, I'm going to send you that $1,000, they say. So there are things that may very well take place there. So we will be involved in trying to figure out how we can do a better job serving clients, serving those companies, because they have to get paid and they have to pay their vendors and all that in their metaverse.